PodcastCoug Season 4, Episode 7.
You're listening to the PodcastCoug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The PodcastCoug is your weekly Coug On Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. And now, here is your host, PodcastCoug.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the PodcastCoug. I am James Laurie, the PodcastCoug, and you are listening to the PodcastCoug, where we are all things Cougar football. 30 minutes of Coug talk. We're talking about Arizona State, our defense, Max Borghi, what happened, our upcoming game against Colorado in the Palouse on Saturday, homecoming on Saturday. And you know what? Cougs are 3-3, of course, 0-3 in conference. Been a while since we've been 0-3. Cougs lost 38-34 in the desert, Arizona State. 34 seconds left. I almost cried. In fact, I did. I had tears in my 34 seconds left. Jaden Daniels took off, leaped for a 17-yard touchdown, gave Arizona State 38-34 win over the Cougs. It was just, oh my gosh. And you just can't convince me that we're better, that anyone. You can't convince me or anyone that Arizona State is a better football team. Okay, I mean we at many times we look better, but you know it's simple when you're not as talented as the guy across from you, and you have to execute better than he does, right? And so we have, I think we've got less talent now. Coaches won't say that, they won't come out and say it's talent, but. And I hope, we've got a social media thing going on where the players are not supposed to be listening to social media. That includes podcasting. So hopefully, what is it, right? It's leadership, talent, it's just not very good execution, right? So, when you know your job and you're supposed to know your job and how to beat the other guy, the last few years we had guys that could do that, right? We had coaches on the field that could fix it. And we don't have the guys or the leaders anymore, and it shows. We made some adjustments, right? So the problem is every time Washington State or any school for that matter, right, gets a good assistant coach, right, they just get hired away to bigger programs or become head coaches. That's hard to do. It's hard to keep good assistant coaches these days. It's just hard. I consider this a big drop off. It's a huge drop off. Leach typically makes good hires, right? Unfortunately, Leach's ability to identify, good assistants has turned him into, really a great headhunter for the bigger programs, right? Like with bigger salaries and compensation. Look at Grinch at Oklahoma and Graham Harrell at USC. I mean, Grinch now makes what now? $1.4 million, right? At Oklahoma. And he was just making $600K 2 years ago at Washington State. So before these assistant salaries started going crazy, Leach was able to identify good guys. Good guys at Tech. He did that all at Texas Tech, and they would hang around for a while. He's really known for his ability to lure, quality hires, quality guys consistently, and it's very sad and very unfortunate about Tracy Clay's not working out, and we hope we found a good quality guy that would stick around for a while. But, obviously that wasn't a good fit. And Leach is really between a rock and a hard place. I think that, to make a good hire, and the best you can hope for is sometimes only 3 seasons. So, once in a while he makes a bad hire, but, we can see what's going on right now, the results, but it's somewhat frustrating. A lot of people, myself included, realize that the margin of error is very thin at Washington State, right? There's schools that just can give away a win and still find victories on their schedule, right? We're not that school. These Saturdays are, nothing's easy, and it's just not easy, right? So, especially this year. So, the Cougs showed some focus and energy, coming off the bye week. We looked great coming out right into Tempe because of because of our loss, there's things that need to be corrected, and of course there's a list of things to celebrate and actually be grateful for. We did do some really good things. So the lack of key players and leadership and guys on defense, has finally caught up to us. So at times it looks like we're a better football team, and it's too bad we have some guys that are playing in some critical positions, and those critical positions are weaknesses right now, and could it be getting into their heads, right? So the question moving forward is, are they able to shake off adversity? And here we go into this next game against Colorado, and I'll tell you, we've got to have that win, because 0-4 is not going to be a very good mindset, right? It's just not going to be. So it's too bad. I thought the Cougs played better defensively overall, and I thought, the offense played pretty well, pretty good. It sort of appeared that we were the better team, and we should have won. And personally, I was thrilled. It was the way the game started. It was great. We were up 10-0, right out of the gate, first quarter, 10-0. Arizona State had like 23 yards of offense in the first quarter. And we got a couple of sacks, and there was improvement there coming right out of that bye week, especially with our new co-defense coordinators, right? So offensively, I was really impressed by the way our offensive line played. Really impressed, and I think a little surprised at how Gordon's numbers were good. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, so the numbers look great. I thought Gordon did a great job moving the ball. However, he did miss some key throws. So, but let's talk about Borghi, right? Let's talk about Max Borghi. 14 touches, 5 from the backfield. We've got to find a way, guys. We've got to find a way. If we're not going to, if we're not going to run the ball 15 or 20 times with Max, then we need to do something, formation-wise, like putting Max out in the slot, right? Borghi runs great routes. He catches the ball just fine. He's an athlete. We've got this guy, and we're kind of containing him 50%. We should be using him to the max. There isn't anything that he can't do, right? So we just got to figure this out, right? And everybody compares Max Borghi with Christian McCaffrey, right? So Christian McCaffrey, he used to touch the ball 30-35 times in a game, and although Borghi is not McCaffrey, you can't even compare. There's no comparison. But Borghi is one of our best guys we've had in a long time. And I'll tell you something. He touched the ball 14 times, and he should be touching it 30-35 times. We need to throw bubble screens to him and wheel routes. It's just common sense, right? So the question is, when we're doing air raid completely full. We are the full air raid, not half air raid. We are full, and it's very unfortunate because Coach Leach doesn't really deviate on the full max air raid. And speaking about max, we need to use max, right? And so is Coach Leach set in his ways? The answer is yes, he is. Okay, and you can't necessarily change him, even when you've got somebody like Max Borghi. It's unfortunate. So at the end of the day, we've got a special guy. Let's use him. Let's use him. Let's use him. Let's use him. Use him more. Right. So the it's ideal when you're like, okay, for the offense, when you're like 2-6 or 2-5 all day long, we've got this vertical mindset that we really are consistently, if you look, we're always like 3-9 and 2-9 and 3-8, and then we don't have very many options on the table. You're not going to run Borghi when we're 3-8. Let's do it when let's go 2-6, right? So we need to consider Max as a robust commitment to run on first and second downs. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Max Borghi, first and second downs. Get those chunk yards in, okay? And make it easier, especially when it's third down and you're not trying for 8 or 9 or 10 yards. So. While we're on the topic of offense, by the way, have you noticed where that obviously you've noticed that Arconato is out. He's been out, right? We haven't won a game since he's been out. We are 0-3 without Brandon playing. And he's still on the depth chart. So the depth chart, right? So let's hope he gets healthy and we get him back. Did you also notice that Tay Martin came in for the last play at the Arizona State game, the very last play against ASU? Interesting. Didn't play at all day long. Last play of the game, Tay Martin comes in. So something is going on there. And I know Leach has rules and he disciplines his players, but that's what I'm looking into or reading into that. And so, he doesn't like whiners, no whining whatsoever. You won't play if you're a whiner. Okay. You got to be positive, right? So, anyway, but I am impressed with how Leach didn't beat down the team publicly during the press conference after the Arizona State game. You've got to be careful not to beat down your team when you're down. Don't kick the dog when you're having a hard day. Your dog's always going to be waiting for you with a smile on his face. And I like how after that press conference, he was positive. Not positive, I should say, but he didn't beat his team down. And I really, really like that. And so we need good locker room, fundamental, positive energy in the locker room, even when we have these setbacks. So, be careful not to beat down your team when you're down. It sounds like, he encouraged some of the improvement. We're talking down in the desert. So speaking about losing, we're going to talk about the 3-3 Colorado Buffaloes, and the Chainsmokers are closer. Next, right here on the Podcast Coug.
Hey, Coug fans. You're podcasting with James Laurie and the PodcastCoug Radio Network. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show, featuring all things Cougar football in Washington State. To help you get through the week, hit the subscribe button or check us out on iTunes, the App Store, iOS, Google Play, Stitcher, or at PodcastCoug.com.
Welcome back to the second half of the Podcast Coug. I am James Laurie, the Podcast Coug, where we're all things Cougar football, all things Cougs, and this song remained at the #1 spot for 12 consecutive weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, sold 10 million units.
I was doing just fine before I met you. I drink too much and that's an issue, but I'm okay. Tell your friends it was nice to meet them, but I hope I never see them again. I know it breaks your heart. Moved to the city in a broke down car, and 4 years no calls. Now you're looking pretty in a hotel bar, and I can't stop. No, I can't stop. So baby, pull me closer in the backseat of your Rover that I know you can't afford. Bite that tattoo on your shoulder. Pull the sheets right off the corner of the mattress that you stole from your roommate back in Boulder. We ain't never getting older.
On the mattress that you stole in Boulder, the Chainsmokers, and of course the song is Closer. What a smash hit 3 years ago. 2016, huge hit by the Chainsmokers on the mattress that you stole from your roommate back in Boulder. Now, can somebody write a hit single for Pullman? I mean, really? I mean, here comes Colorado to town, right? And Pullman, it just doesn't have the ring for radio. I mean, like Boulder does. I mean, that song was such a smash hit. Amazing that Boulder gets on the map of the whole world. 10 million units were sold in the United States. Again, it was on the charts number one for 12 consecutive weeks on the Billboard Hot 100, and 26 weeks it remained in the top 5. So we welcome Boulder to Pullman for homecoming, right? 4 o'clock. ESPNU, Cougs have won 3 in a row against Colorado. 2 in a row. 2017 and 2018 homecoming at 4 o'clock. And, of course, are we going to make it 3 in a row against the Buffs? We opened up 12.5-point favorite, and Colorado just got hammered by 13th-ranked Oregon, 45-3. I mean, they didn't even kick it. I mean, they didn't even, no touchdowns. 45-3. Are you kidding me? I mean, talking about getting hammered in that loss, the Buffs were averaging, prior to the Oregon game, they were averaging 35 points per game. And the running back emerged for Colorado. Alex Fontenot rushed for 463 yards, 4 touchdowns in 5 games. So get this. Colorado ranks 117th nationally in pass efficiency defense. We're going to boat race these guys. I mean, this could be the biggest test of the year for the Colorado defense. And that's a rough season, defending the pass. They're giving up 307 yards and, again, ranked 117th nationally in pass efficiency defense. Like most defensive coaches in the college football these days, Mel Tucker has some, he's got, he says that our version of the air raid is what he says for Washington State for Mike Leach. This is Mel Tucker. He says, hey guys, it is pure air raid, right? It's not like a version of the air raid. It is the real deal. And this is it. I mean, this is the air raid of air raids. And we're coming to Pullman. And just make sure you bring that mattress from Boulder, right? So anyway, it's, he says we've got it down to a science. Quarterback Steve Montez, the guy's set 35 school records down in Boulder. So Montez has thrown 8,000 career passing yards. The guy can throw tons of records. He's 6'5", senior, and it's interesting that his dad played college quarterback at Texas Tech. Now that was prior to Leach, but it's interesting. Anyway, hopefully we're looking for some strong leaders. And we need some strong leaders. We need to salvage our season. Obviously, we need to get to 6 games, right? And it's very sad when you hear fans or Coug fans all around, just say, hey, our mindset is to hope to get 6 wins to get to a bowl game. That is sad. If we're just focusing on, if I could just scrape by and get to 6 wins, get to a bowl game, and get the trophy cup, get the little, ribbon, it's sad. But that's what our season is this year, right? I mean, right? There's a season for everything. So this is our year to be, hopefully, 6 wins, right? I mean, some of the things are okay, but this game is huge. I mean, if we lose 4 games in a row, the psyche of the locker room, think about it. If we lose to Colorado on Saturday, I don't think personally the season is salvageable. So yeah, Colorado is huge. I mean, it's brutal. It's huge. And there's a lot riding on this week. And, think about it. If we lose 4 in a row, the team clearly doesn't have a leader. And it's going to be tough coming back from that. I mean, even Oregon State. So I wouldn't be surprised we don't come out and just boat race Colorado. I mean, on computer, we're better. I mean, in every area on computer, we're better. And one accolade that Leach doesn't tolerate is whining. So no whining anywhere, on the sidelines, in the locker rooms, anywhere. No whiners whatsoever. You want to make the depth chart? You want to get on the depth chart? No whining. You whine, you're off. You're off. You might play the last play of the fourth quarter, right? So now, if you're an analyst, obviously you're going to, the obvious wins on the schedule, right, is Colorado and Oregon State. But those aren't gimmies. They are not a gimme, right? So, we're 0-3 in conference play. These are huge games. We've got to pull together and get some points on the board. Common denominator is obviously our defense. It's questionable, but we've made those improvements down in the desert. It was just one of those games that we didn't win. We outperformed, for the most part, over Arizona State. That first quarter, 10-0. We just played really well. We tired out at the end. It seems like our defense just gave up, right? So, boat race Colorado, then go to the Eugene game, beat the Ducks. Okay, no, here's the deal. Boat race Colorado, then go to your Eugene game. The Ducks beat the Huskies on Saturday. Eugene makes it on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We go down there, and they don't show up. And you get that? Okay, we boat race Colorado on Saturday. The Huskies, Montlake, the Ducks annihilate Washington, annihilate the Huskies. They go down to Eugene. They're on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and we go down, and the Ducks don't show up, and we just steamroll them. Oh, I don't know about steamrolling them. They have a phenomenal defense, but we win. I can't tell you how many times. There's at least once or twice they were on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We went down to Eugene, and we beat them. They were rated number 1. It was amazing. And they didn't even show up. It was like 55-14 or something, 55-21. It was amazing. The stadium Otsa just cleared out. So we want them to beat the Huskies big time, because that is a huge game on ABC. Huge. We want them to beat the Huskies. We want them to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. We've got a boat race Colorado. We're going to go down to Eugene and give them a fight. And you know what? It is possible. It is possible, right? So we don't have Gardner Minshew this year, of course, on offense. Anthony Gordon going on his 7th start, trying to figure himself out, let alone leading the team. He just doesn't have... He doesn't have the starts to be confident to lead the team as a leader. That takes years sometime. But good news, we brought back Hunter Dale on staff to lead the defense. Yeah. And at this point, it's we're trending, on leadership ice, until proven otherwise. So hey, we're going to take one Saturday at a time. Let's hope we perform. We're going to boat race Colorado, and I'm actually going to be at Husky Stadium on Saturday. Now, I'm in real estate. You may know this. I'm in real estate, residential, the King County area, and I've got a client who's got season tickets. He knows I'm a Coug fan. He knows I'm the podcast Coug. And I've known him for many, many years, right? And he has got season tickets. He invited me to the Duck game. Of course, what do? Do I wear Ducks? Do I root for the Ducks or the Huskies, right? Now, out of respect, right? Of course, if Mike wasn't inviting me, I'd be wearing crimson and gray all day long at Husky Stadium, but I'm not going to, because I'm just not. Okay. I'm going to honor and respect my client, and we're going to be tailgating, and I'm going to be in the outward rooting for the Dogs, the outward being the inner me, the inside, which is more important. The heart is more important. I'll be rooting for the Ducks, right? And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, that game's going to be over at 3:30. The Coug game starts at 4 o'clock. Hopefully it'll be fun. I'll catch it, obviously, on a delayed broadcast on DVR. Hey, if you like what you're hearing on the Podcast Coug, hit the subscribe or the favorite button. I really appreciate it. That's it for the episode 7 of our 4th season of the Podcast Coug. Let's boat race Colorado. We're going to see you next week, and go Cougs.
You've been listening to the Podcast Coug Radio Network with your host, James Laurie. The Podcast Coug is your weekly Coug on Demand show featuring all things Cougs and Washington State Cougar football. This has been a presentation of the Podcast Coug Radio Network. Find us at podcastcoug.com.